I'm running for my teacher.
I am running for my grandma.
I'm running for my mom.
I'm running for myself.
Whether you run, walk, or stroll, discover with every step your power to change the world. Join us in the fight against breast cancer, October 9th at Isotopes Park for the Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure. Register today at KomenCNM.org. Whose life are you running for?
This is James. Welcome to MusicUNight. I'm here with a man who has this pulse on the music scene here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Marco Nunez. Marco, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Awesome. We're here, glad to have you here on our show tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime. I know you've got your pulse on a lot of things in the scene. What do you got going on right now?
Currently, I'm the executive producer of the After Party TV show. I'm also the drummer with the James Douglas Show, Digital Underground, the KNN, and Romeo Johnson.
Awesome. Do you are you in production with that, or how are you handling all that work you're doing?
Right now, we're in the studio recording a new record for the James Douglas Show entitled 9. We're also doing the KNN record, which is a new record with collaboration with Digital Underground, and then shooting the TV show every other week. So it's been pretty busy.
Great. How did you get hooked up with the Digital Underground scene?
I actually started promoting shows with them in 1989, and met them, and it just kind of worked out. I stayed friends with them, and we've been friends for over 20 years.
That's great. I know you're more rock oriented.
Yeah.
How did you happen to fall into the hip hop kind of scene that you're involved with?
I moved to LA years ago. My godfather Randy was he was doing Azul, which was like he was playing cajon and playing drum set with kind of a Latin type band, and it kind of changed my direction. It was hard to get a gig playing rock at that time, obviously, if he didn't have a gig playing rock. And a friend of mine got signed by Warner Brothers that was straight R&B and asked me to come out to LA and come play with him. So I just kind of switched genres, and it seemed to work for me.
I know you just said your godfather Randy. Let's talk about the legend Randy Castillo. Give me some information on growing up around Randy Castillo.
Well, you don't never get to grow up around Randy Castillo because he was always on the road. You know, he was always working. I got to see him a lot when he'd come into town and he'd bring me presents. And when I started playing drums, and of course he took more interest, you know, and he was just always somebody I could call and ask advice, and you know, that was always behind me musically. And when I got to LA, every time I went to LA, whether it was with my dad when I was younger or when I went out there touring or whatever, he was the guy that would take me around and introduce me to everybody that he could possibly introduce me to try to help me have a career, you know, so that I wouldn't be lost when I got out there. And I never have been. Thanks to him, I've had a career.
Great. Do you attribute your becoming a drummer to that, or were you a drummer prior to?
I think I attribute me becoming a drummer to a lot of people, like my dad, and you know, Pete Gabaldon that played with my dad. My uncle Ralph, you know, played drums as well. He was real good friends of Randy's. I think I attribute me being serious as a drummer. I think I attribute that to Randy, because seeing him be successful, knowing him before he was successful, and then seeing him be successful let me know that it was possible. So that's when you kicked it into high gear and, you know, really got in the shed and started practicing and wanted to make it a career. It wasn't just about playing, you know, the normal local Albuquerque scene, you know, as far as playing rancheras and quinceañeras and all that stuff. That's what everybody does out here. You know, I really saw that it was possible to go to LA, go meet the right people. If you were good enough, you would get a gig, and it was able to be a career, a real career. That being a rock star wasn't out of our reach, you know. So That's really, I attribute that to him.
I know Randy Castillo is known for being a rock drummer, but you've touched on he played many more genres of music besides rock. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, he didn't start out in rock. I mean, he started out with the Sheltons, Doc Rand and the Purple Blues, playing more funk, you know, R&B funk type stuff, because there wasn't any rock bands. His first, as far as I know, his first major rock experience was with Mud, and they were more like a psychedelic rock type thing. And he went from there, you know, to the Wombleys, and, you know, moved on through the ranks, playing with Lita Ford and the Motels and all of them. And I mean, he was in the right place at the right time, and he was perfect. He was a rock star. He always was.
Awesome.
And he made it possible for all the rest of us, you know.
Which is cool. I know you've carried that on, and you honor him greatly.
Absolutely.
One of the other things is, I know you're a great drummer, what kind of endorsements do you have that you've accumulated throughout your career?
Oh man, I've had a lot of different endorsements. Right now I'm playing DW drums, I'm playing Zildjian cymbals. I just signed with Johnny Rap drumsticks.
Nice.
Kelly Shoe microphone mounting systems, Westone in-ear monitors, Electrosonics wireless systems, Evans drum heads. So I have a lot of endorsements, thanks to God.
Elaborate for some of the up-and-coming artists that are looking to seek endorsements. What process did you have to go to get a lot of those endorsements?
I got in a van and spent 20 years in the van on the road.
Hear that, people?
Playing 100 to 200 shows a year. Played all the little holes, played big stadiums and festivals, and
Proving yourself.
Just pretty much played, man. It just worked. It hasn't been. I was very blessed with the connections, from my dad and from Randy and the people that they know, but that didn't make it any easier. That just gave me a phone number to call. I still had to go out and do the work. Endorsements, it's all about them. It's not about you. It's what you can do for them. So you need to present yourself in a way that you're going to cater to the company. What can you bring to the table? How can you help them sell more of their product? Can you advertise it? Are you going to be in front of people? Where I'm fortunate is that I'm not so big, I'm not Tommy Lee, so people can still talk to me. So whatever I'm playing, when I'm at a show, they can come and ask me what I'm playing, how I tune it, how I set up, why I play that, what heads I'm using, whatever. They can come and talk to me about it. And I love drums, so naturally I want to sit and talk about it. So I think that's where my strong point comes in with the companies that I endorse.
That's great. I know you're out there and you're up and coming, and like you said, you're not Tommy Lee, but you're above a lot of others in a league, and it's great that you're approachable, and that you don't think of yourself as get away from me, I'm a rock star. And that's what's really cool is people love that they can go out to a venue and see somebody play, and then see the guy that was just on stage in crowd with them, they can ask them questions. And going on that line, let's say I'm a young band trying to get into the scene, what advice would you have for that kind of a situation?
Go to the clubs, meet the other bands, find out where everybody's playing, support the scene, go and meet everybody. As you know, bands break up and reform and break up and reform, so you want to be friends with everybody. So if this drummer here quits this band and goes to play with this band, they need a guitar player and you play guitar, you can go play with them. Or if you guys both have bands and you can share bills and stuff, that's the best way to do it. Especially if you're up and coming, find the best band that fits you and go see if you can open shows for them. Do not make it about money. It cannot be about money. If it's about money, you're in the wrong business, because money's few and far between, the first 10 years of this, there was no money, and it was all about, family support and people taking care of you and sleeping on a couch and eating whatever you could eat, trying to eat from, I call it the salad bar at the club that has the cherries and the lemons and the limes, and that's a salad bar,
Ketchup soup.
Yeah, man, I watched the music scene kind of change, because I started out playing in rock bands that were playing 6 nights a week at clubs and making decent money, and then everything changed to where the clubs were not, a lot of those clubs closed, and then the other clubs were only doing 2 nights a week, and the money was very different. So I saw a lot of musicians stop playing at that point. But for young players, just get out there, man. Play as much as you can, anywhere you can. Make sure your gear is good. Make sure you set yourself up for success. Make sure you're ready, and that you're willing to sacrifice everything, because it's not easy.
Let's talk about the change in music scene. I know it's kind of died off. What are you trying to do to generate interest and bring that back to life? I know you're got your finger on it, so let's try and figure out what do we got to do to get people back in clubs, get clubs back up and running, and get people appreciating live music again.
I think a lot of the younger folks these days were not raised on live music. They were raised on radio music, the stuff that's on the radio now. So to see a live band is a little strange for them. Like where myself, everybody was live when I was coming up. Right. There wasn't anything else. So I think just getting them to see it, the TV shows, this show, exposing them to the live bands. I've never seen anybody that doesn't like a live band when they see them, so I think it's just a matter of exposure. If you can get them just to be present, when there's live music playing, as long as it's good, I think they're going to gravitate towards it. A lot of the stuff on the radio now is starting to twist and bend, even on pop radio. You have CeeLo Green and Jay-Z that are adding live instrumentation to normal, their normal house mixes and stuff like that you would never get that. So I think it's kind of starting to bend toward that.
That's a true statement. I saw the Chili Peppers in concert, I think a couple of years ago, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers had Snoop Dogg opening up for them. And, I'm not really into that rap genre, but I thought, okay, let's check it out and see what happens. Snoop Dogg actually came out with a live band, and they played Black Sabbath.
His band smokes.
Yeah, the Black Sabbath and Metallica, and I was kind of floored. He said, we're here, this is the Snoopadelics. He did generally gravitate back into his rap thing, but I noticed a lot of the rock crowd was kind of getting into so that's kind of genre hopping, and I noticed that you kind of do that a little bit yourself. You're from a rock background, you play in the James Douglas show, more a little funk oriented, but that's kind of cool. You're kind of mixing the fans back in with each other.
Well, when I was coming up, I don't know if you remember, there was just radio stations.
Exactly.
They didn't have rock radio and pop radio. You had radio stations, and either it was country, talk, or pop. And pop stations would play, Parliament Funkadelic, and then Led Zeppelin, and then Glenn Campbell, and everything came out on the same radio station. So for me, it's not genre hopping. I'm just playing music. That's all I've ever done. That's all I know. My dad's played with Tower of Power in Chicago and B.B. King and Pointer Sisters and all these other folks. So I grew up in that music, but I gravitated toward rock. The only genre hopping I ever did was going over to just play rock. You know what I mean? Me doing what I'm doing now is just natural. I'm a musician. I'll play anything. I don't care. I just want to play. That's all I've ever wanted to do.
Great. I'm James with MusicUNight. We'll be right back with Marco Nunez on MusicUNight.
Awesome.
Okay.
Hey, this is Legan with MusicUNight, and we are proudly sponsored by Music Go Round.
Welcome back. We're here with Marco Nunez. Marco, I know you're involved with something called The Architects. You care to elaborate on that?
Yeah, that's my production company. I have a partner. His name is Mike C. He's a multi-platinum producer. I met him when I was living in LA. He was he was a staff producer at Edmonds, which is Babyface's studio.
Oh, right.
And I was tracking there. And we met in the parking lot. I had cigarettes and he had a lighter, and I didn't have a lighter and he had no cigarettes. So
fate.
Yeah, it kind of worked out, man. We've been partners for about roughly 15 years.
Wow.
And it's basically the umbrella company for everything we do. Our deal with Universal, we have a distribution deal with Universal, and that's with the Architects, and all the groups that we work with basically are underneath that umbrella. To give them, anonymity, I guess it is. In case they get an offer from another label or whatever, they can leave without any strings attached. But they have distribution through Universal until that comes.
That's a heck of a note. That brings a lot of credibility to people that are involved with that. How does that help them?
To have the deal with Universal, it basically gives us international distribution, gives us physical distribution if we need it. We can go through the same channels to promote the records that Universal has. Basically we can use their machine to help our independent projects, as long as we have the money to fund it, of course. But the deal being with the Architects, rather than each band individually, leaves the bands open to go sign with another company. If Interscope came, even though they're a Universal company, but if they came with an offer for the James Douglas show, I could take the James Douglas show out, sign them to Interscope without having any litigation with Universal. So it keeps everybody still free,
right,
but still gives them that umbrella, and they can still distribute records and not have any issues.
A lot of distribution done on the internet.
To me, from what I see, about 80% right now, based on our sales platforms that we've done with Universal, even CD Baby and TuneCore and stuff, other platforms that we've used in the past 10 years or so. We're looking at about 80%, man.
Wow,
people are not buying a lot of physical CDs. The bands are basically selling physical CDs at the shows. That's the best place to get them. You don't sell a lot on the internet. Probably 2 out of 100. We'll sell 100 downloads and then sell 2 CDs.
Wow. I noticed that, a lot of the retail stores are cutting down their actual physical music sections. And so talking about the internet, how do you feel the future of music, recorded music and bands regarding to the internet? How do you feel that's headed?
Well, it can go one of two ways in my opinion. I mean, I don't ever say I know everything about this stuff, but to me, a lot of the problem is that bands are not concentrating on whole albums anymore. They're concentrating on singles. It's become a singles market. So as long as they continue to do that, the download thing's going to be huge, because people are not going to go on and buy the whole record. They're going to buy just their favorite song, whatever single that band has out at the moment. If bands were to revert back to concentrating on the whole album, I think people would be more apt to buying a physical copy, because then they can touch it and feel it and open the covers and it has something to look at. Anymore, to be cost effective, even artists that are putting out physical product are doing it as cheaply as possible. They're putting it out in eco sleeves. They're not offering booklets. They're not doing anything with it. I don't know if you remember, like, the old Rolling Stones record had a pair of panties in it, and
The zipper on the front.
Yeah,
cover.
all of the whole trip, and that was, people were excited. They had some anticipation. There is no anticipation anymore. Somebody's recording. When the record's going to come out. You know what it looks like 6 months beforehand. Most likely the song will get leaked on the internet and you'll get to hear it before the record ever comes out. You can go to YouTube and watch them in the studio. You can go to Ustream and watch them while they record. There's no anticipation. There's no mystery behind it anymore. So I think people need to make better records. They need to concentrate on the albums and try to make a product that people are willing to download and buy a physical copy and buy a poster of and all that other stuff, because that doesn't happen anymore. I don't think the internet's necessarily a bad thing. I think that what it does is it gives people who are not in this for the right reasons too many options.
Right.
If you have great bands, it doesn't matter what they do. People are going to gravitate toward the music. If the band's great, people are going to like it, and that gives them a resource to get it out there. But at the same note, if a band's horrible, you get inundated with it. Your Facebook page will have 3,000 posts from that band just because they're tenacious, and it doesn't lend for a better music scene. I just would like to see people concentrate more on the music and stop worrying about being cool.
That's a true thing. I noticed there's a trend with music's kind of especially in the rock genre. They're jumping back towards retro sound. What do you think is attributed to that?
It sounds better.
Right.
I mean, nothing sounds like 2-inch tape, man. A lot of bands that I know of, producers in LA and stuff, they're going back to 2-inch because you can't get vocals and drums to sound better than that, not with any plugins in the world. And then as soon as they record it, they dump it back into Pro Tools and mix it in Pro Tools and stuff, but they're still getting that natural tape compression.
They're still getting that warmth.
Yeah,
that's kind of missing, right?
And I don't know, man. To me, everything goes around in a circle.
It's cyclical. That's what I've been saying.
It's always, there's always a revolution. I see like these guys now wearing skinny jeans and eyeliner and all that stuff, and I mean, damn, I wore spandex and eyeliner, in the 80s. That was just our version of skinny jeans at the time,
Right.
I'm watching all the hairstyles come back, I saw a guy in Denver at a mall that looked just like Nikki Sixx. I thought it was him. I almost walked up and said hi, and it totally wasn't him. And just the thought process that, wow, it's gone all the way around. This kid was like a high school kid. So I mean, everything goes around in a circle, and the best records, the records that people have tried to emulate for the last 20, 30, 40 years, they were all recorded on 2-inch tape. They were old school, or they were recorded on tape, even when it was 1/4-inch and 1/2-inch and 1-inch and 2-inch. So I think people are trying to gravitate towards that sound. You cannot get a John Bonham drum sound in Pro Tools. It's not going to happen.
I know Tesla just redid an album. It's called Reel to Reel, and it's a 2-disc cover, and they covered a lot of songs from the 70s and 60s, and they actually hunted down the technical data and recorded them on the same equipment and the same tape decks that
Awesome.
they recorded the original songs on, just to get that warmth. And I tend to agree with you that warmth is something we've got to recapture, and it'll bring some interest back in.
It's a different sound. I mean, it used to cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to put together a studio. Now you can put together a studio and record bands for $5,000. The mistake people make, I think, personally, is they buy this gear and they think that they're putting out industry quality music, and it's impossible. You know, you can't put out, you're not going to match up to a Led Zeppelin or a Jay-Z or any of those. They're not using the stuff in their
Right.
house. They're going to major studios. They're using, you know, $100,000 microphones and big preamps and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So I think technology hurts us as well as helps us, you know?
Little of both worlds.
Yeah, man. I'd love to see all the old stuff come back.
Okay, Marco, I know you're with the James Douglas Show. Where can we see you? What can we expect to see from James Douglas?
Check out the afterparty.com, the jamesdouglasshow.com, knmusic.net. You can hit me up on Facebook. It's just Facebook, Marco Nunez.
Thanks.
Check it out.
Thanks a lot. I'm James with Music Unite. Remember, let music unite us all.
Badass Brewery. It's badass.